Once, in a small village nestled in the mountains, there lived a young boy named Kai. He wasn't known for any special talents or exceptional skills, but he had something that set him apart, an unbreakable spirit and an unyielding desire to improve. His village was humble, and the people, hardworking. They worked the land and made the most out of what little they had. But every year, during the harvest season, a fierce storm would hit. The storm would bring floods, tear down crops, and wash away the efforts of an entire year. Year after year, the villagers would rebuild, and the cycle would repeat. Despite the hardship, they never gave up, but as the years passed, it became clear that something had to change. The storm was always the same. They couldn't control it, but they could control how they prepared. Kai, only a boy at the time, sat silently one evening, watching the older villagers talk about their struggles. He heard them speak about the storm with resignation. It was a force of nature, a predictable adversary that they simply had to endure. But something stirred in Kai's heart. He didn't want to endure, he wanted to change. He wanted to do more than just rebuild after the storm. He didn't want his life, nor the lives of those he loved, to be at the mercy of an event that had become so predictable. He decided that he would be the one to find a way to stand against the storm. Kai went to the village elders, asking them questions about everything, their experiences with the storm, how they rebuilt, and if they had ever tried something different. Many laughed and said it was simply how life was, there was no point in questioning it. But one elder, an old woman named Leora, saw something in Kai's eyes. She saw determination, a fire she hadn't seen in years. She told him, "You may not be able to stop the storm, but you can change how you face it. The answer is not in fighting nature but in learning to coexist with it." With those words, Kai's journey began. Leora taught him everything she knew, about resilience, strength, and most importantly, adaptability. She spoke about the natural world and how, in order to thrive, one must learn not only to endure but to grow in the face of adversity. She told Kai that the storm might never stop, but his response to it could be entirely different. With that wisdom, Kai worked day and night, learning how to craft stronger shelters, more resilient crops, and protective barriers for the fields. He worked tirelessly, testing new methods, failing many times but learning each time. The village watched him in disbelief. How could a boy with no formal training be so focused and determined? He didn't have the resources, the wealth, or even the support of many of the villagers who were still skeptical. But Kai had something more important: purpose. As the next harvest season approached, the storm clouds began to gather once again. But this time, things were different. The villagers gathered in fear, waiting for the devastation they knew was coming. But when the storm hit, they were met with a surprise. Kai's new design for the crops and the shelters held strong. The floodwaters rose, but they didn't destroy everything. The fields were protected, and the homes stood firm. The storm came and went, but the village was intact. The losses were minimized, and the villagers marveled at what Kai had accomplished. They had doubted him, but now they saw the power of one person's vision, effort, and unshakable belief. Kai had not only changed the way they dealt with the storm, but he had shown them that no challenge was too great if faced with courage and ingenuity. As Kai stood amidst the village after the storm, he realized something profound. The storm would come again. It always did. But he had learned that it was never about the storm itself. It was about the strength within to face it, the willingness to adapt, and the determination to never give up. The real storm wasn't the one in the sky. It was the doubt, the fear, and the resignation that often brewed inside. But if one could conquer that inner storm, then they would be ready for whatever the world threw at them. Kai's journey became the village's story. Years later, when the storm would come, it didn't bring fear. It brought a sense of unity, strength, and purpose. The villagers knew they couldn't stop the rain or the winds, but they could shape how they responded. They could stand tall, shoulder to shoulder, just as Kai had done. And just as the storm never stopped, neither did Kai. He went on to teach the next generation, not just how to prepare for the storms in nature, but how to face the storms inside themselves. The storms of doubt, fear, and failure. Because Kai understood that these were the storms that shaped the soul, and the greatest strength anyone could have was to keep moving forward, no matter how fierce the winds or how heavy the rain. And so the story of Kai, the silent warrior, became a legacy that reminded everyone who heard it, you're stronger than you think. The storms will come, but you have the power to stand strong. Keep going. Keep growing. And never give up, because within you is the fuel for the soul that will carry you through even the fiercest storm.